Do you know that at night, your mind becomes the most mysterious? When the world grows quiet, your brain slowly begins to awaken hidden memories, thoughts you don't even notice during the day. And here's the strangest truth. Sometimes what you remember isn't completely real. Because memory isn't a recording. Memory is a story your brain rewrites every single time. Tonight, we're going to explore a few psychology facts that will reveal just how deep the human mind truly is, how strange, how powerful, and how beautifully mysterious it can be. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and slowly drift into this quiet world of wonder. Now, imagine your mind as a vast library, not a simple one, but an endless place filled with corridors that stretch into darkness, shelves that rise higher than mountains, and doors you never even knew existed. Inside that library, every experience you've ever had is stored somewhere. But the strange part is, your brain doesn't store memories the way a camera stores photos. It stores them the way a storyteller stores a tale. Psychologists have discovered that memory is not a fixed object. It changes, it shifts, it reshapes itself. Every time you remember something, your brain does not simply replay it. It rebuilds it, piece by piece, emotion by emotion, detail by detail. That means the memory you hold today might not be the same memory you held last year, even if you believe it is. In experiments, people were shown a series of images, then later asked to recall what they saw. Many confidently described details that were never there. A red object that was actually blue. A person standing in the corner who never existed, and yet their minds insisted it was true. This is not because the brain is broken. It's because the brain is efficient. Your mind is constantly trying to fill gaps. It takes fragments and completes them. It blends what you saw with what you expected to see. It combines the truth with imagination and then presents it to you as a single smooth story. And in daily life, this explains something many people have felt. The strange uncertainty of wondering if a moment truly happened the way you remember it. It also explains why arguments can feel so confusing. Two people can share the same day, the same conversation, the same room, and walk away holding completely different versions of reality. Not because one is lying, but because their minds are writing different stories. Your emotions also shape memory more than you realize. When you are anxious, your brain stores more negative details. When you are happy, your mind tends to soften sharp edges. And when you feel safe, memories become warmer, almost like they are wrapped in gentle light. So, the past you carry is not just a record of what happened, it is a reflection of how you felt. And perhaps that is why memories can hurt so deeply. Because they are not only about events, they are about emotions that never fully left. As the night grows quieter and your breathing becomes slower, remember this. Your mind is always creating, even while you sleep. And in the next part of our journey, we'll uncover another strange psychological truth, one that explains why your brain can sense patterns, danger, and meaning even before you consciously notice them. For now, just relax and let your thoughts drift like waves in the dark.
As you continue to rest, notice how quiet everything feels. The air seems slower now, as if the night itself is moving gently around you. And somewhere inside that stillness, your mind is doing something it does every second of your life, scanning. Even when you believe you are relaxed, your brain is constantly searching for patterns. It is one of the oldest survival tools humans ever developed. Long before language, long before cities and lights and screens, pattern recognition kept people alive. A sudden rustle in the grass, a shadow that didn't belong, a sound that repeated too many times. The mind learned to notice what was unusual, because unusual often meant danger. And the strange thing is, your brain still works that way today. That's why you can walk into a room and immediately feel that something is off, even if you can't explain why. Maybe someone's tone is slightly different. Maybe the silence feels heavier. Maybe the atmosphere is tense in a way you can't name. Your conscious mind might not understand it, but your unconscious mind is already collecting tiny clues and building a conclusion. Psychologists call this intuition, but it isn't magic. It's the brain doing fast, quiet calculations beneath awareness. In fact, research suggests that your brain can make decisions before you consciously realize you've made them. In certain experiments, scientists observed brain activity that predicted a person's choice several seconds before the person reported feeling the decision. It's as if your mind knows what you will do before you know. That can feel unsettling at first, like free will is slipping away, but it can also be comforting, because it means your brain is always working in the background, processing information, protecting you, and guiding you through the world without asking for your attention. Your conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg, visible, bright, and sharp, but underneath is a much larger structure, quiet, powerful, and hidden. This is also why first impressions are so strong. Within moments of meeting someone, your brain starts forming a judgment, not necessarily a fair one, but a fast one. It reads facial expressions, posture, eye contact, and tone. It compares them to every person you've ever met before. It searches for similarities, for warning signs, for familiarity. And then it produces a feeling: trust, discomfort, curiosity, safety. And often that feeling arrives before you have any logical reason. That's the unconscious mind at work, a silent observer inside you, always watching. But there's another strange layer to this. Sometimes your brain sees patterns when none exist. It can find meaning in randomness. It can connect unrelated events. It can create a story where there is only coincidence. This is why people see faces in clouds, why we feel like a song is meant for us, why we sometimes believe the universe is sending signs. The brain is a meaning-making machine. It doesn't like chaos. It doesn't like emptiness, so it fills the space with interpretation. And perhaps that is one of the most human traits of all, the need to believe that something, somewhere, is connected. As you lie there, breathing softly, you might realize that your mind has been doing this all your life, searching, connecting, predicting, building stories, not to confuse you, but to help you survive. And in the next part of our journey, we'll explore something even more surprising: how emotions can quietly reshape what you see, what you hear, and even what you believe is true. For now, let the night hold you, and let your thoughts drift gently onward.
Now that your mind has begun to settle into this quiet rhythm, let's move deeper into something that shapes your life more than you realize: your emotions. Most people think emotions are simply feelings that rise and fall: happiness, fear, anger, calm. But psychology suggests something far more mysterious. Emotions don't just live inside you. They quietly change the world you experience. They change what you notice. They change what you ignore. And sometimes they change what you believe you saw. Imagine walking down a street at night. If you feel relaxed, you might notice the soft glow of streetlights, the stillness of empty roads, the gentle sound of distant traffic. But if you feel anxious, that same street becomes a different place. Shadows feel darker, footsteps sound louder. Every movement becomes suspicious. The environment hasn't changed, but your perception has. That is because emotions act like filters. They color the brain's interpretation of reality. Psychologists have found that when people are in a fearful state, their brains detect threats faster. Even neutral faces can appear angry. Even harmless sounds can feel alarming. The mind becomes hyper-alert, searching for danger, just as it was designed to in ancient times. But it doesn't stop there. Sadness can distort time. When people feel depressed or lonely, time often feels slower. Minutes drag, hours stretch. A single day can feel endless. Yet when people feel joy or excitement, time seems to vanish. Hours disappear like a dream. The clock moves the same way for everyone, but the mind does not. Your inner world shapes your sense of time. This is why childhood summers felt infinite. Your brain was absorbing everything as new. Every day was filled with fresh details, fresh emotions, fresh discoveries. But as we grow older, routines repeat. Days blur together. The mind stores fewer unique moments, and so the years seem to speed up. Not because time moves faster, but because memory records less of it. And there is another fascinating psychological truth. Your brain is not actually designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you alive. That's why negative emotions often feel stronger. Fear is louder than peace. Anxiety is sharper than contentment. The mind pays more attention to what could go wrong, because for most of human history, noticing danger mattered more than noticing beauty. Yet the modern world is filled with stress that doesn't involve predators or survival. Deadlines, messages, social pressure, endless noise. The brain responds to these modern threats with the same ancient alarm system, and over time, it can exhaust itself. This is why calming emotions are so powerful. When you feel safe, your body begins to repair. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing deepens, your muscles loosen, and your brain shifts into a softer mode where it can process memories, release tension, and restore balance. That is also why kindness can feel healing. A gentle voice, a warm message, a simple smile from someone you trust. These things may seem small, but they send a signal to the nervous system. You are not alone. You are not in danger. You can rest. And rest is not weakness. It is a biological need. As you listen tonight, you may notice your mind becoming quieter, as if these words are smoothing the surface of a lake. And in that stillness, you might realize something comforting. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are signals, and once you understand them, they begin to soften. In the next part, we'll explore a phenomenon that feels almost supernatural, the strange way your brain can sense attention, connection, and presence, even when no one speaks a word. But for now, breathe slowly and let your thoughts drift deeper into the night. As the night continues to unfold, you may notice something subtle happening inside you. Your thoughts are slowing down, like footsteps fading into distance. And in this calm space, it becomes easier to explore one of the strangest human experiences, that quiet feeling that someone is watching you. Almost everyone has felt it at least once. You're sitting somewhere peaceful, perhaps in a cafe, or walking down a hallway, and suddenly a strange sensation rises in your body. You turn your head, and there it is, someone's eyes already on you. It can feel almost supernatural, like a hidden sense. But psychology offers a gentler explanation. Your brain is incredibly sensitive to small changes in the environment. It notices things you don't consciously register: a shift in light, a tiny movement in your peripheral vision, a slight change in sound when someone stops talking, even the faint instinct that something has entered your space. These signals are often too subtle to reach full awareness, yet your nervous system reacts anyway. This is one reason why people sometimes feel attention before they see it. Your body responds first, then your mind explains later. And it isn't only about being watched. Humans are social creatures, and our brains evolved to detect connection. In ancient times, sensing the gaze of another person could mean safety or danger. It could mean a friend was nearby, or a predator, or someone planning harm. Over thousands of years, the brain learned to treat attention as something important. Even now, your brain takes eye contact seriously. In psychological studies, direct eye contact can increase heart rate. It can make people feel more emotionally awake. It can even change how persuasive someone seems. Eyes are not just physical features, they are signals. They communicate interest, threat, warmth, or judgment without a single word. And because of this, your brain reacts quickly. But there is another strange truth about human connection. We synchronize without realizing it. When people spend time together, they begin to match each other's rhythms. Their breathing patterns align. Their posture mirrors. Their tone of voice becomes similar. Even their heartbeats can begin to follow the same tempo, especially between people who feel close. This is not coincidence. It's the nervous system forming harmony. Psychologists call this emotional contagion, the idea that feelings can spread between people like invisible waves. If someone enters a room stressed and tense, others often begin to feel restless too. If someone is calm and warm, the atmosphere softens. Your brain reads other humans constantly. Facial expressions, micro movements, voice shifts, and then it adjusts your own emotional state to match. That is why being around peaceful people can feel like medicine, and being around anxious people can feel exhausting. Even without words, your mind is always listening. And perhaps that is why touch can feel so powerful. A hand on your shoulder, fingers intertwined, a gentle hug. Physical contact sends a deep signal to the brain. You are safe. You are supported. You belong. It releases oxytocin, a bonding hormone that lowers stress and eases pain. In moments of fear, touch becomes a quiet anchor. And the beautiful part is, you don't need to understand the science for it to work. Your body knows. As you rest tonight, you might realize that your mind has been shaped not only by your own thoughts, but by the invisible energy of others, their presence, their warmth, their gaze. In the next part, we'll explore a different mystery: how your brain can be influenced by something you barely notice, a scent, a sound, a word, quietly steering your emotions and decisions. For now, stay comfortable and let your mind drift softly forward.
As you continue to drift through this quiet mental landscape, notice how your breathing feels now. Slower, deeper, almost as if your body is beginning to trust the night. And in this softened state, it becomes easier to understand something most people rarely think about: how easily the mind can be influenced, not through force, not through loud commands, but through the smallest invisible signals, the kind you barely notice. One of the most powerful of these signals is scent. Smell is different from the other senses. When you see something, your brain analyzes it carefully. When you hear something, it passes through layers of processing. But smell takes a shortcut. It travels directly into areas of the brain connected to emotion and memory almost instantly. This is why a scent can change your mood before you even recognize what it is. The smell of fresh rain can bring comfort. The scent of a certain perfume can bring sadness. The aroma of food can bring warmth or longing. And the strange part is, the mind often reacts before the conscious brain catches up. In experiments, researchers found that people exposed to subtle, pleasant scents were more likely to behave kindly. They smiled more. They felt more relaxed. They even rated other people as more trustworthy. Meanwhile, harsher smells could increase irritation without people realizing why. It's almost as if the air itself can shape your emotions. And scent is only one example. The brain is constantly being primed. Priming is a psychological phenomenon where exposure to a stimulus influences your thoughts or actions later without you realizing it. For example, if someone reads words related to warmth, they might unconsciously describe another person as friendlier. If someone sees images of money, they may become more independent and less likely to ask for help. These changes can happen silently. No announcement, no awareness, just a gentle shift in the mind's direction. This is one reason why environments matter so much. A room with soft lighting can make people feel safe. A cluttered space can create subtle stress. A quiet corner can encourage honesty. Your brain absorbs everything around you: the colors, the sounds, the temperature, even the distance between people. And from those small details, it creates an emotional conclusion. You may believe you are choosing your mood, but often your surroundings choose it first. Even music has this power. A slow melody can lower your heart rate. A familiar song can unlock memories you thought were gone forever. Certain rhythms can create calm, while others create urgency. This is why music is used in films to guide emotions. The mind follows sound like a boat following a current. And there is another strange truth. Sometimes your brain reacts to things you barely perceive at all.
Very brief words, images, or expressions, too quick for conscious awareness, can still influence how you feel. Psychologists call this subliminal processing. It's not as dramatic as movies suggest, but it does reveal something important. Your conscious mind is not the only mind you have. Beneath awareness, your brain is constantly collecting information, shaping impressions, and preparing emotional reactions. It is always working, even when you think you are doing nothing. And perhaps this is why nighttime feels so different, because when everything becomes quiet, your mind begins to notice the invisible, the small signals, the subtle emotions, the quiet patterns, the things that were drowned out during the noise of the day. As you rest now, you might feel yourself slipping closer to sleep, and that is perfectly natural, because your brain is doing what it was always meant to do at night: processing, sorting, softly reshaping reality. In the next part, we'll explore a comforting psychological illusion, one that proves belief itself can change how your body feels, even when nothing else changes. For now, let the night hold you gently. The night continues to feel softer now, as if the world has wrapped itself in a blanket of silence. And in this stillness, it becomes easier to notice something gentle and strange: how powerful belief can be. Most people assume the mind is logical and the body is physical, that the body follows rules and the mind simply observes them. But psychology reveals a quieter truth. The mind does not only observe the body, it influences it. One of the most fascinating examples is something researchers sometimes call placebo sleep. In certain studies, people were told that their sleep quality had been excellent. They were shown fake charts, fake results, and convincing explanations. But the truth was, their sleep was normal. Some had even slept poorly. And yet, the next day, those people performed better. They felt more energetic. They concentrated more easily. Their mood improved. Not because their bodies had truly rested more, but because their minds believed they had. It sounds almost unbelievable, but it reveals something important. Expectation is not just a thought, it becomes a signal. When the brain expects energy, it releases more alertness. When it expects calm, it lowers stress. Belief becomes a command the nervous system listens to. Of course, real sleep is still essential. The body needs true rest. But placebo sleep shows how much the brain's interpretation matters. Two people can experience the same night and wake up feeling completely different simply because of what they believe about that night. And this same effect appears in many parts of life. The placebo effect is well known in medicine. People given sugar pills often report reduced pain, improved mood, even physical healing. Their brain releases chemicals as if real medicine had been taken: endorphins, dopamine, calming neurotransmitters. The mind becomes its own pharmacy. Psychologists believe this happens because the brain is always predicting the future. If it expects healing, it prepares the body for healing. It shifts hormones. It changes immune responses. It reduces tension. Belief becomes biology. And there is another psychological truth hidden inside this. Your brain does not react to reality, it reacts to meaning. If you interpret something as threatening, your body floods with stress hormones. Your heart speeds up, your muscles tighten, your breathing changes. Even if there is no real danger, the body responds as if there is. But if you interpret the same situation as safe, the body relaxes. This is why anxiety feels so real, because the body is not pretending. The stress response is real. It is happening. The only difference is the threat exists mostly in the mind's interpretation. And this is also why comfort works.
A calming voice can reduce fear. A reassuring word can slow the heartbeat. A soft light can ease tension. These are not small things. They are signals that reshape the nervous system. Even the simple act of telling yourself, "I am safe right now," can change your body's chemistry. It may not erase problems, but it can soften the brain's alarm system. It can bring the mind back into the present moment. And that is where sleep begins. Sleep is not something you force, it is something you allow. It arrives when the brain finally feels safe enough to let go. Perhaps that is why bedtime rituals matter so much. The same pillow, the same blanket, the same quiet sound. These things become psychological anchors. They tell the brain, this is the place where we rest. And slowly, the mind obeys. As you lie there now, you may notice your body becoming heavier, and maybe your thoughts are becoming lighter, like feathers floating down. In the next part, we'll explore a phenomenon that keeps many people awake, the strange way unfinished thoughts and incomplete tasks cling to the mind like quiet ghosts. But for now, just breathe and let the night carry you deeper.
Now that your mind has drifted into this deeper calm, you may begin to notice something familiar. A quiet pull inside the brain. A thought that returns again and again. A conversation you replay. A task you haven't finished. A small worry that refuses to fully disappear. And if you've ever wondered why the mind does this, psychology has an answer. There is a phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect. It sounds like a strange name, but the idea is simple. Your brain remembers unfinished tasks more strongly than finished ones. When something is incomplete, it creates a mental open loop, and that loop stays active in the background of your awareness, almost like a quiet alarm. It's why you can forget a completed chore in seconds, but remember an unfinished project for weeks. It's why a movie you never finished can linger in your mind, why an argument without closure can replay in your head, why an unspoken sentence can haunt you more than the words you actually said. The brain dislikes incompleteness. It wants resolution. Psychologists believe this is an ancient survival mechanism. In early human life, unfinished tasks could be dangerous. If you left something incomplete, like building shelter or finding food, you could be vulnerable. So the brain evolved to hold unfinished things close, keeping them active so you would return to them. But in modern life, this same mechanism can create stress because modern tasks don't end. There is always another message, another deadline, another responsibility, another worry. And so the mind can become trapped in endless open loops, constantly holding on to unfinished pieces of life. This is why people often struggle to sleep, not because their bodies are restless, but because their minds are still working. The brain is reviewing what is unresolved, what you forgot, what you didn't say, what you should have done differently. And here's the most interesting part. Your brain doesn't need the task to be completed to feel relief. It only needs to believe the task is accounted for. That's why writing a to-do list can feel calming. Even if you don't complete the tasks, your brain feels safer because the information has been placed somewhere outside the mind. The loop begins to close. The nervous system relaxes. This is also why talking to someone can reduce anxiety. When you speak a worry out loud, it becomes organized, it becomes clearer. And once it becomes clearer, it becomes less frightening. The mind fears chaos more than difficulty. When something is unclear, the brain keeps turning it over, searching for meaning. But when it becomes defined, the brain can finally breathe. And this is why closure matters so much. not because it changes the past, but because it allows the mind to stop searching. Sometimes closure comes through conversation, sometimes it comes through forgiveness, and sometimes it comes simply through acceptance, the quiet decision to stop chasing an answer that will never arrive. Psychologists say that the mind often creates stories to complete what is unfinished. If you never get an explanation from someone, your brain may invent one. It may assume rejection, betrayal, or failure, even if the truth is unknown. The brain prefers a painful explanation over no explanation at all, because pain is still a form of certainty. As you lie there now, you might notice your own open loops, small unfinished thoughts floating through the darkness. And if you do, don't fight them. Just observe them gently. Let them pass like distant waves. Because tonight, you don't need to solve your life. You only need to rest. In the next part, we'll explore something softer, the way gratitude can shift the brain, lower stress, and quietly change the chemistry of the body. For now, let your mind loosen its grip, and let sleep come closer.
As your thoughts begin to quiet, you may notice a gentle space opening inside your mind, a calm gap between one thought and the next. And in that quiet space, there is something surprisingly powerful: gratitude. Most people think gratitude is simply politeness, a habit, a social gesture. But psychology suggests it is much deeper than that. Gratitude is not only an emotion, it is a shift in attention. And attention is one of the most powerful forces in the human mind. Your brain cannot focus on everything at once. It chooses, it filters, it decides what matters. And whatever your mind repeatedly focuses on becomes the world you experience. Not the whole world, but your personal version of it. When the mind focuses on danger, life feels unsafe. When it focuses on loss, life feels empty. When it focuses on failure, life feels heavy. But when the mind focuses on gratitude, something changes. Researchers have found that people who regularly practice gratitude often show lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Their nervous system becomes calmer. Their sleep improves. Their heart health can improve as well. Even the immune system appears to respond positively. It's almost as if gratitude sends a signal to the body that says, "You are safe." And safety is the beginning of healing. Psychologists believe this happens because gratitude moves the brain away from survival mode. It shifts attention away from what is missing and toward what is already present. It doesn't erase problems, but it balances them. It reminds the mind that life contains more than fear. This is why gratitude can feel so peaceful at night. During the day, the mind is busy chasing goals, responsibilities, pressure. But at night, when the world slows down, gratitude becomes easier. A warm bed, a quiet room, a breath moving in and out. The simple fact that you are here, alive and resting. These small things become powerful when you truly notice them. And there is another fascinating psychological truth. The brain learns through repetition. When you repeatedly focus on negative thoughts, those pathways become stronger. It becomes easier to worry, easier to overthink, easier to expect the worst. The mind begins to treat anxiety as a familiar home. But when you repeatedly focus on gratitude, you strengthen different pathways, pathways connected to calm, to appreciation, to emotional balance. Over time, gratitude becomes less like an effort and more like a natural way of seeing.
This doesn't mean you will never feel sadness. It doesn't mean life becomes perfect, but it means the brain becomes more resilient. It learns how to return to peace more quickly. Even a few seconds of gratitude can change the nervous system. A single thought, like "I am thankful for this quiet moment," can soften your muscles. It can slow your heartbeat. It can reduce the mind's constant scanning for danger. And perhaps that is why gratitude is so often linked to sleep. Sleep is not only physical rest, sleep is emotional release. It is the moment the mind finally stops holding on. And gratitude helps the mind let go. It gently closes the open loops. It tells the brain that at least for now, there is enough. Enough air, enough warmth, enough safety, enough stillness. You may notice that when you feel grateful, your breathing becomes deeper without effort. Your body becomes heavier. Your thoughts become slower. Gratitude is like a quiet lullaby. As you rest tonight, you don't need to force yourself to feel anything. But if you want, you can try something simple. Think of one small thing you appreciate. It could be a person, a memory, a moment, even the comfort of your blanket. Hold that thought for a few seconds and let it wash through you. In the next part, we'll explore another strange and comforting truth, how the brain can mirror other people's emotions, and why certain voices, faces, and energies feel instantly familiar. For now, remain still and let your mind drift gently onward.
The quiet feeling of gratitude can linger like a soft glow in the mind. And as that glow settles, it becomes easier to notice something else, something that has always been happening around you, even when you didn't realize it. Humans are emotional mirrors. Psychologists have discovered that we unconsciously copy the emotions of the people around us, not in obvious ways, but through subtle changes in our nervous system. A smile can make you feel lighter. A tense voice can make your shoulders tighten. A sad expression can make your chest feel heavier, even if you don't know the person. This is called emotional contagion, and it's one of the reasons why the atmosphere of a room can change so quickly. One person walks in stressed, and suddenly everyone feels restless. One person walks in calm, and the space becomes softer. Your brain is constantly reading people. It watches their eyes, their posture, their breathing, their tone of voice, and then, without asking permission, it adjusts your own emotional state to match. This isn't weakness, it's survival. In ancient times, being able to sense the emotional state of others was essential. If your tribe felt fear, you needed to feel it too. If your group sensed danger, you couldn't remain calm. The brain learned to synchronize emotions as a form of protection. Even today, this synchronization still happens. That is why certain people feel comforting. Their calmness becomes contagious. Their presence slows your mind down, and without realizing it, you begin to breathe like they breathe. There is also something deeper happening inside the brain. Scientists have discovered a system of cells often called mirror neurons. These neurons activate not only when you perform an action, but also when you watch someone else perform it. If you see someone yawn, your brain prepares to yawn. If you see someone cry, your brain activates emotional regions connected to pain.
In a way, the brain experiences a shadow version of what others feel. This is one reason why empathy can feel so intense. You are not only understanding someone's emotions, your nervous system is partially sharing them. It's also why movies can make you cry, even though you know they aren't real. Your brain doesn't fully separate observation from experience. When you see emotion, your mind responds as if it belongs to you. And this leads to a beautiful psychological truth. Humans are wired for connection. Even if someone lives alone, even if someone feels distant from others, the brain still carries an ancient hunger to belong. It searches for faces, it listens for voices, it tries to find warmth. This is why loneliness can be so painful. It is not just sadness, it is the nervous system feeling unsafe. In psychological research, loneliness has been linked to increased stress hormones, weaker immune response, and poorer sleep quality. Not because the body is broken, but because the brain interprets isolation as danger. To the ancient mind, being alone meant vulnerability. That is why small acts of connection matter so much. A message from a friend, a smile from a stranger, a gentle conversation late at night. These things do more than make you feel good. They calm your nervous system. They tell the brain, you are not alone. You are part of the world. And this is also why comforting voices feel powerful. When you hear a slow, gentle voice, your brain begins to match its rhythm. Your breathing slows, your muscles loosen, your heart rate lowers. The nervous system begins to synchronize with calmness. In a way, the mind borrows peace from others. As you lie there now, you may realize something comforting. Even in silence, even in darkness, even in solitude, your brain is still connected to humanity. It carries the echoes of every voice, every touch, every presence you have ever known. And in the next part, we'll explore one of the strangest mental experiences of all, lucid dreaming, and how the sleeping brain can create worlds more vivid than reality itself. For now, let your thoughts soften, and let the night carry you deeper.
As the quiet deepens, you may feel yourself drifting closer to the edge of sleep. That gentle place where thoughts begin to blur, where the mind loosens its grip on the waking world. And in that in-between space, something extraordinary can happen. Dreams begin to form. Dreams are one of the greatest mysteries of psychology. Every night, your brain creates entire worlds. Worlds with people, places, emotions, and stories that feel real while you are inside them. And yet, when you wake up, those worlds dissolve like mist. But sometimes, a person becomes aware inside the dream. This is called lucid dreaming. A lucid dream is a dream in which you suddenly realize, I am dreaming. And in that moment of awareness, the dream can change. Some people report being able to control the environment. They fly through skies, walk through walls, speak to imaginary strangers, or revisit places that don't exist in reality. The most fascinating part is that lucid dreaming is not a fantasy. It is a real psychological state. Researchers have observed that during lucid dreaming, certain areas of the brain linked to self-awareness become more active, especially parts of the prefrontal cortex. Normally, this region is quieter during sleep, but in lucid dreams, it wakes up slightly, like a candle flickering inside darkness. This small awakening creates awareness within the dream world, and it raises a strange question. If your brain can create a world that feels real, then what exactly is reality? Even when you are awake, you do not directly experience the outside world. You experience your brain's interpretation of it. The brain takes signals from the senses and builds an internal model. Sight, sound, touch, smell, and memory blend together to form what you call now. In dreams, the brain simply creates that model without outside input, and it can be incredibly convincing. People in dreams can feel love, fear, excitement, heartbreak. Some dreams are peaceful, some are terrifying. Some feel so emotional that they leave a mark for days. Psychologists believe dreams may help the brain process emotional experiences. The sleeping mind replays memories, reshapes them, and integrates them into the larger story of your life. It's as if the brain is quietly cleaning itself, sorting through the day's feelings, deciding what to keep and what to release. And lucid dreaming may allow a person to interact with this process. Some people use lucid dreams to overcome fears. They face monsters, jump from heights, or practice confidence. Others use lucid dreams to explore creativity, imagining landscapes and ideas that waking life cannot offer. There is even research suggesting that practicing certain skills in lucid dreams may improve performance in real life. Athletes, musicians, and performers have reported using dream rehearsal as a kind of mental training. But beyond all science, lucid dreaming offers something more poetic. It reminds you that your mind is capable of creating beauty, even in darkness, even in sleep, even when the body lies still. And perhaps that is why dreams feel sacred. They are private worlds that belong only to you. No one else can fully enter them. No one else can see what you see. Every night, you become a traveler into your own inner universe. As you rest now, you might wonder what your mind will create tonight, what faces will appear, what places will unfold, what forgotten emotions will rise. And in the next part of our journey, we'll explore another strange truth about sleep. Why the brain sometimes hears sounds that aren't real, feels sensations that aren't real, and creates illusions that blur the line between.
As you drift closer to sleep, there is a moment many people experience but rarely talk about. A moment when the mind is no longer fully awake, but not yet fully asleep. A strange doorway between two worlds. And in that doorway, the brain can begin to create illusions. Some people hear their name being called, even though no one spoke. Some feel as if they are falling and their body suddenly jerks awake. Some even see brief flashes of light, shadows, or shapes moving in the darkness. These experiences can feel unsettling, but they are far more common than most people realize. Psychologists call this state the hypnagogic phase. It is the transitional stage between wakefulness and sleep. During this time, the brain begins to shift its activity patterns. The logical, controlled parts of the mind slowly quiet down, while dream-related areas begin to awaken. And because the brain is halfway between two modes, reality becomes flexible. In the hypnagogic state, the mind can produce sounds, images, and sensations that feel real. not because anything supernatural is happening, but because the brain is beginning to dream before sleep fully arrives. It is like a radio tuning between stations, catching fragments of different frequencies. One of the most common hypnagogic experiences is the falling sensation. Just as the body relaxes, the brain sometimes misinterprets the muscle relaxation as a sign that you are losing balance. It responds with a sudden jolt, a quick muscle contraction that pulls you back into awareness. This is called a hypnic jerk. It's the reason you may suddenly kick or twitch while falling asleep, as if your body is trying to catch itself. And although it can feel strange, it is usually harmless. Another common experience is hearing sounds that aren't there. A knock, a whisper, a sudden bang. These sounds are often created by the brain itself. As the mind enters dream mode, auditory areas can begin producing internal noise. The brain is preparing to build a dream world, and sometimes it tests the system, like an engine warming up. Visual flashes can happen too. Swirls of color, brief images, faces, or strange patterns. Your eyes may be closed, but your brain is beginning to paint. In fact, some of the most creative ideas in history have come from this state. Scientists and artists have described receiving sudden inspiration while half asleep. Because in this phase, the mind is less controlled, less filtered. It connects ideas more freely. It blends memory and imagination in unusual ways. The boundaries soften, and there is something comforting about that. It means the mind is not only a machine of logic, it is also a machine of dreams. Sometimes people worry that these experiences mean something is wrong, but for most, they are simply signs that the brain is doing exactly what it is designed to do, shifting into sleep. The mind is closing its daytime doors and opening its nighttime ones. As you lie here now, you may feel yourself floating in that same doorway, thoughts becoming softer, images forming and fading, sounds feeling distant. And if you notice a sudden twitch, a strange sensation, or a brief illusion, you don't need to fear it. It is simply your brain stepping gently into the dream world. In the next part, we'll explore something even more fascinating: why the brain sometimes creates false memories, and how easily people can be convinced of events that never truly happened. For now, let yourself drift, and let the night carry you further.
As you continue to sink deeper into the quiet, your mind may feel like it is drifting through soft fog. Thoughts come and go without effort, and in this calm state, it becomes easier to understand one of the most surprising psychological truths. Your brain can create memories that never happened. This idea feels almost impossible at first because memory feels personal, it feels sacred, it feels like proof of the past. But psychologists have discovered that memory is not always a reliable witness. It is a creative storyteller. In fact, false memories are more common than most people think. Sometimes they are small, like remembering the wrong color of a car or the wrong date of an event. But sometimes they can be much larger, remembering a conversation that never occurred, or believing you experienced something that you only heard about later. And the strange part is, the memory can feel completely real. In research studies, people have been shown how easily this can happen. One famous line of experiments involved giving participants a list of words connected to a theme. Words like pillow, bed, tired, blanket, dream.
Later, many participants confidently remembered seeing the word sleep, even though it was never included. Their brains filled in the missing piece. This happens because the mind doesn't store memories like photographs. It stores patterns. It stores meaning. It stores emotion. And when you try to recall something, the brain rebuilds the memory using those patterns. Sometimes it rebuilds it correctly. Sometimes it guesses, and the guess becomes truth. This is why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Even when someone is honest, even when they truly believe what they saw, their memory can be shaped by fear, stress, and suggestion. The brain under stress focuses on survival, not detail. It may remember the danger, but lose the small facts. And after the event, memory becomes even more fragile. If someone asks leading questions, the brain can absorb those suggestions. If someone repeats a story enough times, the mind may begin to treat it as personal experience. Even seeing a photograph or hearing another person's version of events can reshape your own memory. The past becomes flexible. Psychologists call this the misinformation effect. The idea that memory can be altered after an event simply by exposure to new information. And perhaps this explains something many people have felt. That strange moment when you wonder if you truly remember something or if you remember the story of it. Sometimes you don't remember the moment itself. You remember how you described it later. You remember how others reacted. You remember the feeling you carried afterward. And those layers blend together until the memory becomes a mixture of truth and interpretation. But there is something beautiful hidden inside this flaw. It means your mind is not cold, it is alive. It means the brain is constantly trying to make sense of your life, constantly stitching together meaning, constantly building a narrative that helps you understand who you are. Even if the details shift, the mind is trying to protect the emotional truth. And this is why nostalgia can feel so powerful. When you remember childhood, the memory may not be accurate. It may be softened, glowing, edited by time, but the feeling is real. The warmth is real. The longing is real. The brain creates a gentle version of the past because the present needs comfort. False memories are not always dangerous. Sometimes they are a quiet form of healing. Still, this phenomenon reminds us of something humbling. Your mind is not a perfect recorder of reality. It is an artist. It paints your past with emotion, and it chooses colors based on what your heart can carry. As you rest tonight, you might realize that your memories are not just history. They are stories your mind continues to write. And in the next part of our journey, we'll explore another strange psychological pattern, why people become more honest late at night, and why darkness often unlocks hidden truths. For now, breathe slowly and let your thoughts fade like distant echoes.
The night feels different from the day. Even if the same room surrounds you, even if nothing has changed physically, something inside you changes when darkness arrives. The world becomes quieter, the noise fades, the pressure loosens, and in that quiet, people often become more honest. Many psychologists believe that nighttime has a unique effect on the human mind, not because the stars hold magic, but because the brain begins to soften its defenses. Throughout the day, we wear invisible masks. We manage impressions. We filter our words. We hold back emotions that feel too heavy to reveal. But at night, the mind grows tired.
self-control is a limited resource. After hours of making decisions, controlling reactions, and managing stress, the brain's ability to keep emotions locked away becomes weaker. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as ego depletion, the idea that mental control becomes harder when the mind is exhausted. So, when the night arrives, the filters loosen, and suddenly the words you've been holding back begin to rise. This is why nighttime conversations often feel deeper. People speak about regret, love, loneliness, dreams, fear. They confess things they couldn't say in daylight, not always because they planned to, but because the brain becomes less guarded. The quiet environment also plays a role. During the day, the mind is distracted. Screens, voices, traffic, movement. But at night, the world slows down. Fewer interruptions, fewer responsibilities. And when distractions disappear, the mind turns inward. It begins to reflect. That reflection can be peaceful, but it can also be emotional. Many people feel sadness more intensely at night. Some feel nostalgia. Some feel loneliness. The darkness seems to amplify whatever is already inside. Psychologists sometimes call this phenomenon nocturnal emotional intensity. At night, there are fewer external distractions to buffer your emotions, so the mind feels everything more sharply. A small worry can become a big worry. A small memory can become a painful memory. A small longing can become a deep ache. But this is not because you are weak. It is because your mind is finally quiet enough to listen to itself. There is another reason nighttime honesty happens. The brain associates darkness with intimacy. When lights are dim, people feel less exposed. The nervous system relaxes. It feels safer to reveal vulnerable truths because the world seems hidden. Even your own face feels softer in low light. Even your voice sounds quieter. In a way, the night gives permission. Permission to admit what you truly feel. Permission to speak without performance. Permission to stop pretending. And perhaps this is why so many life-changing conversations happen after midnight. Confessions of love, apologies, goodbyes, promises, secrets. The night becomes a container for truth. But there is a delicate balance, because while honesty can heal, nighttime emotions can also distort reality. When you are tired, your brain becomes more negative. Research suggests that sleep deprivation increases emotional reactivity. The mind becomes more sensitive to pain, rejection, and fear. That means the thoughts you have late at night may not always be fair. A small worry can feel like a certainty. A doubt can feel like proof. A small longing can feel like the truth of your entire life. This is why psychologists often advise not to make major decisions at night. The brain is tired, and tired brains can exaggerate darkness. And yet, even with this distortion, nighttime still reveals something valuable, because it shows what your heart has been hiding all day. It brings your deepest feelings to the surface, not to hurt you, but to remind you that they exist. And once they exist in awareness, they can finally be understood. As you lie here now, you may notice your own nighttime honesty. Thoughts that appear only when the world is silent. Feelings that whisper only in darkness. Let them come, let them pass, because in the next part of our journey, we'll explore a psychological truth that explains why the mind clings to certain thoughts, why overthinking happens, and why some emotions repeat like echoes in the quiet of night. For now, breathe slowly, and let the darkness feel gentle, not heavy.
As the night grows deeper, you may notice how thoughts can become louder in silence. During the day, your mind is busy reacting to the world, but at night, the world becomes quiet, and the mind turns toward itself. This is where overthinking often begins. Overthinking is not simply thinking too much. It is the mind trying to solve an emotional problem using logic. It is the brain searching for certainty in a place where certainty may not exist. Psychologists suggest that overthinking is often a form of protection. When something feels unresolved, the brain keeps returning to it. It replays conversations. It analyzes choices. It imagines different endings. Not because it enjoys suffering, but because it believes that if it thinks hard enough, it will find a way to prevent pain. Overthinking is the mind trying to create control. And at night, control feels more urgent. The darkness removes distractions, and fatigue weakens mental boundaries. This creates the perfect environment for repetitive thoughts. The brain becomes like a looped song, repeating the same worries again and again. Many people experience this with regrets. A memory from years ago can suddenly return with sharp clarity. A sentence you said, a mistake you made, a moment you wish you could change. And your brain begins to treat it as if it happened yesterday. Psychologists believe this happens because the brain stores emotional pain differently than ordinary information. Strong emotions create strong memory pathways. When something carries shame, fear, or heartbreak, the mind marks it as important. It becomes a mental warning sign. Never forget this. But the mind does not understand time the way the calendar does. When a painful memory returns, your body can react as if the pain is happening now. Your chest tightens, your stomach sinks, your breathing changes. This is why regret can feel so physical. The brain is not just thinking, it is reliving. And yet, there is another truth hidden inside this. Overthinking is often connected to perfectionism. The mind believes that if it had done something perfectly, pain could have been avoided. So it keeps searching for the perfect answer, the perfect decision, the perfect moment. It tries to rewrite the past in order to feel safe. But the past cannot be rewritten. And so the mind becomes trapped. Psychologists sometimes describe this as rumination, the repetitive focus on distressing thoughts. Rumination has been linked to anxiety and depression because it keeps the nervous system activated. The brain stays in problem-solving mode, even when the problem is emotional and cannot be solved like a puzzle. The more you ruminate, the more your brain strengthens the pathway. It becomes easier to fall into the same loop again, like a trail in a forest becoming deeper each time you walk it. But here's something comforting. The brain can also learn to let go. Studies suggest that naming emotions can reduce their intensity. Simply saying to yourself, "This is anxiety," or "This is sadness," can calm the amygdala, the brain's fear center. It brings the emotion into awareness, and awareness creates distance. It turns the feeling into something you observe rather than something that controls you. Another helpful psychological trick is writing thoughts down. When you write a worry on paper, your brain feels that the thought has been stored somewhere safe. It no longer needs to hold it tightly. The loop begins to loosen. And sometimes the simplest method is also the most powerful.
breathing slowly. Slow breathing signals safety to the nervous system. It tells the brain you are not being chased, you are not in danger, you can rest. And once the brain believes it is safe, thoughts begin to fade naturally. Overthinking does not end through force, it ends through softness. As you lie here now, if your mind begins to replay old worries, don't fight them. Fighting gives them energy. Instead, let them float past like distant clouds. Because in the next part, we'll explore a gentle psychological phenomenon that explains why music, voices, and familiar sounds can calm the mind, and why certain melodies feel like emotional time machines. For now, let your body sink deeper, and let your thoughts grow quieter. As your mind becomes quieter, you may begin to notice something soothing about sound itself. The gentle hum of a fan, the distant noise of traffic, the soft rhythm of your own breathing. Even in silence, there is always a faint melody in the background of life. And psychology has discovered something beautiful about sound. It can unlock memories more powerfully than almost anything else. Music, in particular, has a strange relationship with the human brain. A song is not just a sound, it is a pattern, a rhythm, a sequence of emotion wrapped inside vibration. And when you hear a familiar song, your mind doesn't just recognize it, it returns to the moment you first felt it. That is why one melody can instantly bring back a high school hallway, a late-night drive, a childhood bedroom, or the face of someone you haven't seen in years. The memory arrives before logic. The emotion rises before you even understand why. Psychologists believe this happens because music activates multiple brain regions at once. The auditory cortex processes sound. The motor areas respond to rhythm. The limbic system awakens emotion. And the hippocampus, the memory center, begins to search through the past. Music becomes a key. Not only a key to events, but a key to feelings. And feelings are what the brain remembers most strongly. This is why music is often connected to nostalgia. When you hear a song from a certain period of your life, you don't just remember what happened, you remember who you were, the version of you that existed in that time, the hopes, fears, and dreams that lived inside you then. It is almost like meeting your past self again, and there is something deeply comforting about that. Even with memory loss, people can sometimes remember music. In cases of Alzheimer's disease and dementia, individuals who struggle to recognize family members may still sing along perfectly to songs from their youth. Psychologists and neuroscientists have found that musical memory can remain intact longer than many other forms of memory. It is as if music is stored deeper, perhaps because it is not only information, it is emotion, rhythm, and identity combined. This reveals something profound. Even when memories fade, the heart may still remember. And sound does not only influence memory, it also influences the body. Slow music can reduce heart rate. It can lower blood pressure. It can calm stress hormones. This is why lullabies work so well. Even before babies understand language, their nervous system responds to gentle rhythm. The brain hears safety. This is also why certain voices feel calming. When someone speaks slowly, softly, and steadily, your breathing begins to match their pace. Your nervous system synchronizes. It is like two hearts quietly finding the same rhythm. Psychologists call this entrainment, the process of syncing biological rhythms to an external pattern. Your body becomes a mirror of what it hears. That is why peaceful sounds can feel like medicine. Rainfall, ocean waves, whispered speech. These sounds create predictable patterns, and predictability signals safety to the brain. The mind relaxes when it knows what comes next. And perhaps that is one reason nighttime feels so soothing. The world becomes quieter, and the sounds that remain are gentle and repetitive. The brain finally stops being startled. It begins to drift. As you listen now, you may notice that your own thoughts are beginning to move more slowly, almost like they are following a quiet internal rhythm. And maybe, somewhere in the background, a memory is forming. Not a painful one, not a heavy one, just a soft memory, like a warm light in the distance. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore another hidden psychological force, how the brain becomes addicted to novelty, why attention is so fragile, and why modern life constantly pulls the mind away from peace. But for now, remain still and let sound carry you gently into rest.
As the calm rhythm of the night continues, you may notice how easily your mind can drift. One moment you are listening, and the next moment you are somewhere else entirely, thinking about the past, imagining the future, or replaying something that happened earlier today. And this is not because your mind is weak. It is because your brain is designed to chase novelty. Psychologists have discovered that the human attention system is naturally attracted to new things, new sounds, new information, new faces, new movement. In ancient times, novelty could mean opportunity or danger. A new fruit could mean food. A new sound could mean a predator. The brain learned that paying attention to new things increased survival. So your mind became a hunter of stimulation. Even today, that ancient system still runs inside you. This is why a small notification can steal your focus instantly, why a sudden sound makes your head turn, why scrolling through endless content feels strangely satisfying, even when it leaves you tired. Your brain rewards novelty with dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but it is more accurately the anticipation chemical. It motivates you to seek. It pushes you towards something interesting. It makes your mind feel curious and hungry. And the modern world is filled with dopamine traps. Bright screens, short videos, endless headlines, constant updates. Each one offers a tiny burst of novelty, a small reward, a quick stimulation. And the brain learns to crave it again and again. This is why attention has become so fragile. Psychologists have found that frequent task switching can weaken focus over time. When you constantly jump from one thing to another, your brain becomes trained to avoid stillness. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Slowness feels boring. The mind becomes restless, searching for the next spark. And yet, the most meaningful experiences in life often require deep attention. A real conversation, a creative idea, a peaceful walk, a quiet moment of love. These things do not arrive in a rush. They unfold slowly,
and the brain can only fully experience them when it is present. Multitasking, despite feeling productive, often reduces memory. When you split attention between multiple tasks, the brain stores less detail. It becomes harder to remember what was said, what was felt, what truly happened. Life becomes blurred, like trying to read two books at the same time. This is why days can feel empty even when they are busy, because the brain was never fully there. And perhaps that is why nighttime feels so different. At night, there is less novelty, fewer interruptions, fewer demands. The brain is no longer being pulled in 100 directions. It finally has space to settle into one gentle stream of thought. This can feel peaceful, but it can also feel strange at first. Because if your mind has been overstimulated all day, silence can feel loud. When stimulation disappears, the brain begins to release stored thoughts. Emotions rise, memories return, worries appear. Not because they are new, but because you finally have the quiet space to hear them. In a way, overstimulation is a form of emotional hiding. The mind stays busy so it doesn't have to feel. But when the night arrives, the distractions fade and the mind becomes honest again. And this is not a bad thing. It is the brain returning to its natural state. The human mind was not designed to consume endless information. It was designed to observe nature, connect with people, and rest in long stretches of quiet. That is why the simplest things often feel the most healing. A candle flame, a slow voice, a gentle story, a soft breeze through a window. These things give the mind permission to slow down. As you lie here now, you may notice that your attention is no longer jumping, it is settling. Your thoughts are moving like a slow river instead of a storm. And in the next part, we will explore another psychological truth: why the brain becomes emotionally attached to certain people, why some connections feel instantly familiar, and why letting go can feel like losing a part of yourself. For now, let the night be simple, and let your mind rest in its softness.
As your mind continues to slow, you may begin to feel something gentle in the background, a quiet emotional warmth, almost like the memory of connection. And that is fitting, because the human mind is not only built for survival, it is built for attachment. Psychologists have long studied why people become deeply connected to certain individuals, why some faces feel like home, why some voices can calm you instantly, and why losing someone can feel like losing a part of your own identity. Attachment is not just romance, it is not just friendship, it is a biological system. From childhood, the brain learns who is safe, who provides comfort, who brings stability. Over time, those people become emotionally linked to your nervous system. Their presence lowers stress hormones. Their touch releases calming chemicals. Their voice signals safety. In other words, the brain does not only love, the brain bonds. And once a bond forms, the mind treats that person as part of your inner world. This is why separation hurts. When someone you're attached to is gone, your brain doesn't immediately understand. It still expects their presence. It still searches for them. It still reaches for the comfort that used to exist. This creates a kind of emotional withdrawal, similar to addiction. Psychologists have even found that heartbreak activates brain regions associated with physical pain. That is why emotional loss can feel like a real ache in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach, a tightness in the throat. The body experiences love like medicine and loss like injury. This is also why memories of someone can feel so vivid,
a scent on clothing, a familiar song, a place you once visited together. These small triggers awaken the attachment system. The brain releases emotion as if the person is near, even when they are far away. The mind does not only remember them, it temporarily relives the connection. And sometimes this can make people wonder something mysterious. Why do I keep thinking about them? Why do they appear in my dreams? Why do I feel them even when they're gone? Psychology suggests the answer is simple but deep. Your brain forms emotional maps. When someone becomes important, your mind builds routines around them, thoughts, expectations, habits. Their presence becomes part of your daily pattern, and when they disappear, the brain continues to follow the old map, even though the world has changed. This is why letting go takes time, not because you are weak, but because your brain must rewire itself. Neural pathways that once led to that person must slowly fade. New pathways must form. The brain must learn a new version of life. And the brain does not like change. It prefers familiar patterns, even painful ones, because familiarity feels predictable. Predictability feels safe. This is why some people return to unhealthy relationships, not because they don't know better, but because their nervous system craves what it recognizes. Even chaos can feel comforting if it is familiar. But psychology also offers hope. The brain can heal through new connection. When you build new friendships, new routines, new meaning, the brain begins to reshape its emotional map. The old attachment doesn't disappear overnight, but it becomes softer. The pain becomes less sharp. The mind learns that safety can exist again. This is also why self-compassion matters. When you treat yourself gently, your nervous system begins to associate your own presence with comfort. Your mind becomes a safe place to live, and slowly, the need to chase old connections weakens. As you rest tonight, you might think of someone you once loved, someone you still carry in memory. If you do, let the thought be gentle, no struggle, no judgment, because attachment is proof of something beautiful. It means your heart was real, your connection was real, and your mind is capable of deep love. In the next part, we'll explore another quiet psychological truth: why the brain sometimes chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar peace, and how people unconsciously repeat the same emotional patterns again and again. For now, breathe slowly and let your heart feel calm.
As your breathing becomes softer, you may notice how the mind naturally returns to familiar places, familiar thoughts, familiar worries, familiar memories. It can feel as if the brain is walking the same path again and again, even when you wish it would stop. And psychology has a name for this pattern. The brain is drawn to what is familiar, even when what is familiar is painful. This is one of the most surprising truths about human behavior. Many people assume the mind always seeks happiness, but the mind does not always seek happiness. It seeks predictability. Predictability feels like control, and control feels like safety. This is why people sometimes remain in situations that hurt them, not because they enjoy suffering, but because the brain knows what to expect. The pain becomes a routine. The disappointment becomes normal. And strangely, the mind begins to prefer the certainty of familiar discomfort over the uncertainty of change. Psychologists sometimes call this repetition compulsion, the tendency to repeat emotional patterns from the past. A person who grew up feeling ignored may unconsciously seek relationships where they feel ignored again. A person who grew up with instability may feel strangely uncomfortable when life becomes calm, because calm is unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar can feel dangerous.
The mind learns its emotional home early in life. It learns what love feels like, what conflict feels like, what attention feels like. And even if those early experiences were painful, they still become the blueprint the brain recognizes. So later in life, the brain may confuse familiarity with love. This is why some people feel bored in healthy relationships. Not because the relationship is wrong, but because the nervous system is not used to peace. The brain expects chaos. It expects emotional storms. And when those storms are missing, the mind begins to search for them. Sometimes people create conflict without realizing it, not because they want destruction, but because their nervous system is trying to return to what it understands. The brain is a creature of habit, and habits are not only physical, they are emotional. Even thoughts become habits. If you have spent years worrying, your brain becomes skilled at worrying. If you have spent years doubting yourself, your brain becomes trained to doubt. The pathways become strong, like deep grooves carved into the mind. And the more you repeat a thought, the more natural it feels. This is why negative self-talk can feel like truth, not because it is true, but because it is familiar. The mind often mistakes repetition for reality. But here's the comforting part. The brain is plastic. It can change. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reshape itself through experience. New habits can form. New emotional patterns can develop. New pathways can grow stronger while old ones slowly fade. But change requires discomfort, because the brain must step into unfamiliar territory. And unfamiliar territory always feels strange at first. Even positive change can feel scary because the nervous system doesn't yet know what to expect. This is why healing often feels confusing. A person may begin to feel better and suddenly feel anxious. Not because healing is wrong, but because the brain is leaving its old emotional home. It is learning a new way to exist. Psychologists often say that the mind resists change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of transformation. And sometimes, nighttime is where transformation begins. Because at night, when distractions fade, you become aware of your patterns. You notice the thoughts that repeat, the emotions that return, the memories that refuse to leave. This awareness is powerful, because once you see a pattern clearly, it becomes harder to remain trapped in it unconsciously. As you rest now, you may feel the mind softening, not fighting itself, not forcing change, just noticing. And noticing is the first step. In the next part, we'll explore a psychological truth that feels almost magical. Why people sometimes feel connected without speaking, how silence can carry emotion, and why certain moments feel like telepathy. For now, let yourself stay calm, and let the night continue to unfold.
The night is quiet now, and in that quiet, you may notice how much can be communicated without words. A glance, a pause, a shift in breathing, a feeling in the air that something has changed. And sometimes, human connection feels almost like telepathy. You think of someone, and suddenly they message you. You feel uneasy, and later discover something was wrong. You walk into a room and instantly sense tension, even before anyone speaks. Many people describe these moments as mysterious, as if minds are somehow connected. Psychology doesn't call it magic, but it does offer an explanation that is still deeply fascinating. Your brain is constantly reading invisible signals. Humans are experts at noticing patterns in social behavior. We do it so quickly that we often don't realize we are doing it at all. A small delay in someone's reply, a slight change in tone, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the way a person holds their shoulders, the way their feet point toward the door. These signals are tiny, but the brain collects them like clues. And then the unconscious mind forms a conclusion. You don't consciously think their voice is slightly sharper, their posture is tense, their breathing is fast. Instead, you simply feel it. Something is wrong. That feeling can be so strong that it seems supernatural, but it may simply be your unconscious mind processing information faster than your conscious mind can explain. This is why people often trust their gut. The gut feeling is not located in the stomach. It is in the brain's pattern recognition system. Your mind has stored thousands of social experiences, and it compares them constantly. When something matches a familiar pattern, the brain sends a signal, a quiet warning, or a quiet sense of safety. And this brings us to another fascinating truth. Silence can be emotional communication. When two people sit in silence, their nervous systems still interact. They still synchronize. Their breathing may match. Their posture may mirror. Their emotional state can spread between them without words. This is why silence with the right person can feel comforting, and silence with the wrong person can feel heavy. Psychologists say that humans are always co-regulating. This means we adjust our emotional state based on the people around us. A calm person can calm you. A stressed person can stress you. It happens unconsciously. And this is also why anxiety can spread in crowds. If one person panics, others begin to panic too. Their bodies pick up the tension through facial expressions, voice changes, and movement. The nervous system learns from the group. Emotion becomes contagious. In relationships, this can create deep bonding. When couples spend time together, they often begin to think similarly. They develop shared language, shared habits, shared emotional rhythms. Over time, they can predict each other's reactions. They may even sense what the other person is feeling before it is spoken. Not because of mind reading, but because of familiarity. The brain becomes trained in the other person. It learns their patterns so well that it can anticipate them like a melody you've heard 1,000 times. This is why long friendships can feel effortless. You don't need to explain everything. The other person already understands the rhythm of your mind. And sometimes, this is also why losing someone can feel like losing part of your own thoughts, because your brain had woven them into your emotional system. There is a quiet beauty in this. It means humans are not isolated minds. We are connected nervous systems. We influence each other constantly through presence alone. Even in a room full of strangers, the brain is reading everyone, their energy, their attention, their mood, and it adjusts you accordingly. So perhaps those moments that feel like telepathy are really moments of deep perception, your unconscious mind noticing what your conscious mind missed. As you lie here now, you may feel the stillness around you, and you may realize that even silence has its own language, a language the mind understands perfectly. In the next part, we'll explore another psychological mystery, why the brain feels like it is living the same moment twice, the strange phenomenon of déjà vu, and what it reveals about memory and perception. For now, remain comfortable and let your thoughts drift onward like quiet waves. As the night continues to hold you gently, your mind may begin to drift into a softer state, the kind where reality feels slightly dreamlike. And in this dreamy space, there is a strange experience many people have felt. That sudden, eerie sense that you have lived this moment before. Déjà vu. It can happen anywhere. Walking into a room, hearing a sentence, looking at a stranger's face. For a brief second, the present feels like a memory. The moment feels familiar in a way you cannot explain. And then, just as quickly, the feeling fades. Psychologists and neuroscientists have studied déjà vu for decades, and while it remains partly mysterious, one leading explanation is surprisingly simple. Déjà vu may be the brain's recognition system misfiring. Your memory system is constantly labeling experiences. Some moments are stored as new, and some are tagged as familiar. But sometimes the brain makes a mistake. It sends a familiar signal even when the moment is truly new. And that creates the illusion that you have been here before. Researchers believe this may happen when the brain processes information in an unusual way. For example, if your brain receives the scene in two slightly different streams, even a fraction of a second apart, it may interpret the second stream as a repetition, like hearing an echo. Another theory suggests that déjà vu happens when a new experience strongly resembles an old memory pattern, even if you can't consciously recall the original memory. A certain layout of a room, a certain angle of light, a certain voice tone. These subtle similarities trigger familiarity, but the brain cannot find the source, so it creates a strange emotional glitch. Familiarity without explanation. And this reveals something deeply interesting. Your brain is constantly comparing the present to the past. Even when you are not thinking about memory, your mind is scanning for patterns. It is asking, have I seen this before? Have I survived something like this before? What does this remind me of? This is part of how humans learn, but it also shows that the present moment is never experienced alone. It is always mixed with echoes of what came before. Every sight you see, every voice you hear is filtered through your history. You are never only living now, you are living now through memory. This is why trauma can change perception. A person who has been hurt in the past may see danger in neutral situations. Their brain connects present events to old pain. The mind does not want to be surprised again. And on the other side, happiness can also reshape perception. A person who feels loved may interpret the world as warmer, safer, and more hopeful. The brain connects present moments to past comfort. So déjà vu is not just a strange glitch, it is a reminder that memory is always active, always weaving itself into reality. There is also another psychological truth hidden inside déjà vu. Sometimes the brain creates familiarity to reduce stress. If a moment feels overwhelming, the brain may attempt to soften it by making it feel known. Familiarity signals safety. The mind relaxes when it believes it has experienced something before. So déjà vu might be the brain's way of calming itself, a brief illusion of control. And perhaps that is why déjà vu often happens in new environments. New places create uncertainty. The brain becomes highly alert, and in that alertness, a small misfire in recognition becomes more likely, a strange spark inside the mind. As you lie here now, you may remember times you experienced déjà vu, that sudden chill, that quiet certainty,
that feeling of being caught between two realities. And even if science explains it, the experience still feels poetic. It reminds us that the brain is not a perfect machine. It is a living mystery. In the next part, we'll explore another human pattern that reveals how emotions move through the body, why nervous people speak faster.
As your mind continues drifting through the quiet, you may notice how the body speaks its own language. Even when you say nothing, even when you try to hide what you feel, your body often reveals the truth first. Psychologists have studied this for a long time, a subtle world of signals called body language. Body language is more than posture. It is the nervous system expressing emotion in physical form. A person may say they are fine, but their shoulders may be tense, their hands may fidget, their voice may rise slightly, their breathing may become shallow, and often they don't even realize it, because the body reacts before the mind can create a story. One of the most common signs of nervousness is fast speech. When anxiety rises, the body enters a fight or flight state. This is an ancient survival response. The heart begins to beat faster, breathing speeds up, muscles tighten, the brain prepares for action, and in that state, the mind tries to move quickly. Thoughts race, words rush out, sentences become shorter, pauses disappear. The person speaks faster, not because they want to, but because their nervous system is pushing urgency into the voice. It's as if the body is saying, "We must get through this quickly." This is why people often stumble over words when they are nervous. Their brain is producing thoughts faster than the mouth can comfortably deliver them. But speech is only one clue. The eyes also reveal emotion. When someone feels threatened, their pupils may widen, their eyes may dart around, their gaze may avoid direct contact. The brain is scanning for safety. On the other hand, when someone feels comfortable, their eyes soften, their face relaxes, their gaze becomes steady. Even the feet reveal truth. Psychologists sometimes say the feet are the most honest part of the body, because people can control facial expressions, but they often forget about their feet. When someone wants to leave, their feet may angle toward the door. When someone feels interested, their feet may point toward the person they are listening to. The body reveals intention quietly, and this is why people often sense emotions even without words. The brain is reading micro-signals constantly. There is also something called micro-expressions. Micro-expressions are tiny facial movements that appear for a fraction of a second. They reveal true emotion before the person can hide it. A flash of anger, a quick flicker of sadness, a moment of fear. These expressions are so fast that many people don't consciously notice them, but the unconscious mind catches them, and the unconscious mind remembers. This is why you may feel that someone is lying even if you cannot explain why. Their words may sound normal, but their body may not match. The brain notices the mismatch and it creates discomfort, because inconsistency signals danger. The mind is always watching for harmony between what is said and what is shown. But body language is not only about reading others, it is also about understanding yourself. Your posture can influence your mood. Research suggests that when you hold your body in a tense, closed position, your brain receives a signal that something is wrong. The nervous system stays alert. But when you relax your shoulders, slow your breathing, and open your posture, your brain begins to interpret that as safety. In a way, your body teaches your mind how to feel. This is why a deep breath can calm anxiety, not because the problem disappears, but because the nervous system shifts. As you rest now, notice your own body, the way your arms lie, the way your chest rises and falls, the way your face softens.
Your body is already speaking, and right now it is saying something simple. It is time to rest. In the next part, we'll explore one of the most fascinating psychological forces of all, the way the brain becomes influenced by unfinished thoughts, hidden cues, and words you barely notice, and how suggestion can quietly reshape reality. For now, stay still and let your body sink deeper into calm.
As your body relaxes further, you may feel as if the world is becoming distant, almost as though you were floating. And in this calm state, it becomes easier to understand one of the strangest psychological truths. Your mind is highly suggestible. Even when you believe you are thinking freely, the brain is constantly absorbing ideas from the world around you. Words you hear, expressions you see, the mood of a room, the tone of someone's voice. These things do not just pass through your awareness, they shape it. Psychologists call this suggestion. Suggestion is the process of the mind accepting an idea and allowing it to influence thoughts, feelings, or behavior. Sometimes suggestion is obvious, like someone directly persuading you, but often suggestion is subtle. It hides in small phrases. It hides in repeated messages. It hides in expectations. And the brain responds. One of the most fascinating examples is hypnosis. Hypnosis is not mind control. It is not magic. It is a state of focused attention where the mind becomes deeply absorbed and less resistant to suggestion. In hypnosis, people can experience changes in perception. They may feel less pain. They may become calmer. They may even experience vivid imagery as if it were real. Brain scans show that hypnosis can alter activity in regions connected to pain and emotion. The sensation may still exist, but the brain interprets it differently. It becomes softer, less threatening. This is why hypnosis has been used in medical settings for pain management, anxiety reduction, and behavioral change. But hypnosis is not only something that happens in a therapist's office. In a way, everyday life is filled with hypnotic states. Whenever you become deeply absorbed in something, a movie, a book, a scrolling screen, your brain enters a focused, trance-like attention. You stop noticing the room around you. You lose track of time. And during that absorption, your mind becomes more open to emotional influence. This is why stories are so powerful. A story bypasses logic and goes straight into the emotional brain. It makes you feel something, and once you feel it, your beliefs can shift. A person can change their mindset after hearing the right story, not because facts were presented, but because emotion was awakened. And emotion is what the brain remembers. This is also why repeated words matter. If you repeatedly hear that you are not good enough, your brain begins to accept it as truth. If you repeatedly hear that the world is dangerous, your nervous system stays tense. If you repeatedly hear hope, comfort, and possibility, the mind begins to soften. The brain is like soil. The words you hear are seeds, and over time, those seeds grow into inner beliefs. This can be harmful when the world plants fear, but it can also be healing when you plant calm. That is why the way you speak to yourself matters so much. Self-talk is a form of suggestion. If your inner voice constantly criticizes you, your nervous system learns to live in tension. But if your inner voice becomes gentle, the brain begins to feel safe inside itself. Safety changes everything. And perhaps this is why nighttime listening feels so soothing. When you listen to calm words, your brain absorbs them slowly. It begins to mirror their rhythm.
It begins to relax. The mind becomes suggestible to peace. You may not even notice it happening, but your breathing changes. Your heartbeat slows. Your muscles loosen. The body begins to obey the suggestion of calm. And in a world filled with stress, that is a rare gift. As you lie here now, you may realize that your mind is like water. It takes the shape of what surrounds it. And tonight, you are surrounding it with softness. In the next part, we'll explore something even curiouser: why the brain sometimes remembers negative information more strongly than positive, why gossip spreads so easily, and what it reveals about human survival instincts. For now, let your thoughts fade, and let the night guide you deeper into rest.
As the night continues to unfold, your thoughts may feel lighter now, as if the mind is slowly releasing its grip. And in this calm space, it becomes easier to understand a truth about the brain that is both strange and deeply human. The mind remembers negative information more strongly than neutral information. This is why one insult can echo in your head for years, while 10 compliments fade within days. This is why embarrassing moments return at night, even when you wish they wouldn't. And this is why the brain often clings to fear more tightly than peace. Psychologists call this negativity bias. Negativity bias is the brain's tendency to focus more on threats, losses, and negative experiences than on positive ones. It may seem unfair, but it has a clear evolutionary reason. For early humans, forgetting a good moment was not dangerous, but forgetting a threat could be fatal. So the brain became wired to remember what hurt: a dangerous animal, a betrayal in the tribe, a poisonous plant, a hostile stranger. These memories needed to stay strong because they increased survival. Even today, the brain still operates with this ancient system. That is why stressful news captures attention so easily, why alarming headlines spread faster than calm ones, why the mind feels pulled toward drama. And this brings us to another fascinating psychological truth. People remember gossip more than ordinary facts. Gossip is not only a modern habit, it is ancient social information. In early communities, knowing who could be trusted mattered deeply. A person who betrayed others could put the entire group at risk. So the brain became sensitive to stories about behavior, reputation, and danger. Gossip became a survival tool. Psychologists have found that when people hear stories about someone's actions, especially actions that involve trust or betrayal, the brain becomes more alert. Attention increases. Memory strengthens. The mind stores the information because it might be useful later. In other words, gossip is emotionally charged data, and the brain loves emotionally charged data. This is why rumors spread so quickly. Even if people claim they dislike gossip, their brains are still wired to notice it. It activates the part of the mind that monitors social safety. But gossip has two sides. It can protect groups by warning them about harmful behavior, yet it can also destroy reputations unfairly. The brain is not always interested in truth. It is interested in what feels important, and what feels important is often what feels emotional. This is also why people remember dramatic stories more than calm stories. A peaceful day may fade from memory, but a shocking event can stay vivid forever. The brain stamps intense emotion into the nervous system like a permanent mark. And this is why trauma can feel unforgettable. The mind holds on because it believes it must. But here's something comforting. The brain can be trained to notice good things too. Psychologists have found that when people intentionally focus on positive moments, their brains begin to strengthen those pathways. Gratitude practices, mindful attention, and positive reflection can slowly reduce the dominance of negativity bias. Not by erasing pain, but by balancing it. The mind begins to learn that safety exists as well. This is why gentle routines matter. A cup of tea, a quiet walk, a peaceful voice at night. These moments may seem small, but they are training the brain to remember calm, and calm is a form of strength. As you rest now, you might notice that your mind sometimes pulls toward negative thoughts. That is normal. It is ancient wiring. But tonight, you are doing something different. You are giving your brain a softer pattern, a pattern of quiet, a pattern of stillness, a pattern of safety. And the brain remembers patterns. In the next part, we will explore another powerful psychological truth: how optimism can change the body's recovery, how hope can strengthen resilience, and why the mind's expectations can shape physical healing. For now, breathe slowly and let the night continue to soften you.
As the night grows deeper, your mind may feel as if it is floating between thoughts. And in this gentle drifting, it becomes easier to explore one of the most hopeful discoveries in psychology. Optimism can change the body. Most people think optimism is simply a personality trait. Some people are positive, some people are not. But psychologists have found that optimism is not only an attitude, it is a biological force. Research suggests that optimistic people often recover faster from illness, cope better with stress, and experience lower rates of certain chronic diseases. They tend to have stronger immune responses and healthier cardiovascular systems. At first, this may sound surprising. How can a thought influence the body? But when you look deeper, the answer becomes clear. Optimism reduces stress. And stress is one of the most powerful chemicals the body can produce. When you feel hopeless, your brain activates the stress response. Cortisol rises. The nervous system stays tense. The body prepares for danger, even if the danger is only emotional. Over time, chronic stress weakens immunity, disrupts sleep, and damages the body's ability to repair itself. But when you feel hope, something shifts. Hope tells the brain that the future is not completely dangerous. It signals possibility. And when the brain senses possibility, it relaxes its grip. The body begins to repair. Optimistic people also tend to behave differently, often without realizing it. They're more likely to follow medical advice, keep healthy routines, seek support, and persist through recovery. Their mindset influences their choices, and their choices influence their health. So optimism becomes self-reinforcing. But optimism is not the same as pretending everything is fine. Psychologists describe healthy optimism as realistic hope. It is the belief that challenges can be handled even if life is difficult. It is not denial, it is resilience. And resilience is one of the greatest strengths of the human mind. Resilience is the ability to recover emotionally. It is the ability to bend without breaking. It is the ability to experience pain and still continue forward. Interestingly, psychologists have found that resilience is not fixed. It can be built. Small habits create resilience. The habit of gratitude, the habit of rest, the habit of speaking kindly to yourself, the habit of reaching out instead of isolating,
These small actions train the nervous system to return to safety faster. Even sleep itself is a form of resilience. When you sleep, your brain processes emotions. It organizes memory. It clears toxins. It repairs tissue. Sleep is the body's natural healing ritual. And this is why hopelessness often affects sleep. When the mind feels trapped, it stays alert. It refuses to fully let go. The nervous system stays in survival mode. But optimism gently unlocks the door. Because optimism is not a guarantee that things will be perfect. It is simply the belief that you will survive what comes. And that belief is calming. There is also a psychological phenomenon known as the self-fulfilling prophecy. When people believe something positive is possible, they act differently. They try harder. They stay consistent. They take opportunities. And those actions increase the chance of success. So the belief becomes reality, not through magic, but through behavior. The mind shapes the path. Of course, life can be unfair. Optimism cannot control everything. But psychology suggests it can control something important, your ability to keep going. And sometimes that is the most powerful form of healing. As you lie here now, you may realize that your mind is not only a place of worry, it is also a place of hope. And hope is not loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers quietly in the background, saying, "You are still here." In the next part, we'll explore another strange and fascinating truth: why yawning spreads from person to person, even across species, and what it reveals about empathy and connection. For now, let your body relax, and let hope feel like a soft light inside you.
The quiet glow of hope can feel almost like warmth in the chest. And as that warmth settles, it becomes easier to explore one of the most strangely human behaviors: yawning. A yawn seems simple. A mouth opening wide, a slow inhale, a stretching of the jaw. It feels like tiredness leaving the body. But psychology has discovered something far more fascinating. Yawning is contagious. You can yawn just by seeing someone else yawn. Even reading about yawning can sometimes trigger it. And the strangest part is that yawning contagion doesn't only happen in humans. Chimpanzees do it. Dogs do it. Even some birds have been observed catching yawns. This small, silent behavior spreads across living beings like an invisible signal. Psychologists believe contagious yawning is connected to empathy. Empathy is the ability to emotionally connect with another person's experience. It is the mind's way of saying, "I understand what you feel." And contagious yawning may be a biological reflection of that connection. Studies suggest that people are more likely to catch a yawn from someone they feel close to: a family member, a friend, a loved one. Less likely from strangers. This pattern hints that yawning is linked to social bonding, a subtle nervous system synchronization. It is almost like the brain is saying, "We are together. We share the same rhythm." But why would yawning exist in the first place? Scientists have proposed several theories. One theory suggests yawning helps cool the brain. When you yawn, you inhale deeply, increasing oxygen and airflow, which may help regulate brain temperature. A cooler brain can function more efficiently. Another theory suggests yawning helps transition between states, from tiredness to alertness, from boredom to attention. from wakefulness to sleep. Yawning may be the brain's way of resetting itself, and contagious yawning may serve a group purpose. In early human life, group survival depended on coordination. If one person became tired, the group needed to rest together. If one person became alert, the group needed to pay attention together. Yawning spreading through a tribe may have helped synchronize sleep schedules, keeping the group safer. In this way, yawning may have been a silent social signal, a gentle biological message: it is time to slow down. There is something deeply comforting about this idea. It suggests that even the smallest human behaviors are connected to community. Even when we do not speak, our bodies are still communicating with one another. Yawning is a reminder that humans are not isolated machines. We are linked nervous systems. And this idea extends beyond yawning. Psychologists have found that people unconsciously mimic each other constantly. They copy facial expressions, speech patterns, and gestures. When one person smiles, others often smile too. When one person leans forward, others may lean forward too. This mirroring creates connection. It builds trust. It creates belonging. It tells the brain, we are similar, we are safe together. This is why being around calm people can calm you. Their nervous system becomes a guide for yours. Your body follows their rhythm without effort. And perhaps that is why nighttime feels so peaceful when you listen to a soothing voice. Your brain is syncing. Your breathing is matching. Your body is slowly aligning with calm. You are not forcing relaxation, you are catching it, just like a yawn. As you lie here now, you may feel your eyelids growing heavier, your jaw loosening, your breathing deepening. Maybe you even feel a yawn rising inside you. If you do, let it happen, because it is not only a sign of tiredness, it is a sign that your nervous system is finally allowing itself to release the day. In the next part, we'll explore a truth that feels both mysterious and humbling. How much of the brain is still unknown, and why even modern science cannot fully explain the universe inside your head. For now, let your body soften, and let sleep come closer.
As your breathing slows, you may feel the world fading into softness. Thoughts become distant, like lights seen from far away. And in this gentle drifting, it becomes natural to ask a quiet question. How much do we truly understand about the human brain? For all of humanity's progress, the brain remains one of the greatest mysteries ever studied. We have mapped galaxies. We have walked on the moon. We have built machines that can learn patterns and predict behavior. And yet, inside the skull, there is a universe more complex than anything we have ever created. Psychologists and neuroscientists have learned many things. They can identify regions involved in language, emotion, movement, memory, and vision. They can watch electrical patterns shift as someone thinks. They can observe how neurons fire like tiny sparks of light. But even with all of this, the deeper questions remain unanswered. What is consciousness? Why do we feel like us? How does the brain create the experience of being alive? Science can describe the structure of the brain, but describing structure is not the same as explaining experience. The brain is made of billions of neurons, each connected to thousands of others. The total number of connections is so large that it is almost impossible to truly imagine. Every second, signals travel across this network, creating thoughts, sensations, emotions, and identity. It is not just a machine, it is a living storm of electricity. And the strangest part is, it is studying itself. Your brain is reading these words right now. Your brain is imagining what they mean. Your brain is feeling the mood of this moment. And at the same time, your brain is the object being discussed. It is like an ocean trying to measure its own depth. Psychologists often speak about how little of the mind we are actually aware of. Most mental processing happens unconsciously. Your heart beats without your permission. Your lungs breathe without asking. Your brain decides where your eyes move, what you notice, what you ignore. Even your personality is shaped by forces you cannot fully see. Your childhood experiences, your genetic wiring, your environment, your culture, your hidden fears and hopes. So much of who you are is built silently. And perhaps this is why the brain feels mysterious even to the person living inside it. There are also regions of the brain whose full purpose is still debated. Scientists can observe activity, but they cannot always explain meaning. Some brain networks appear to serve multiple functions. Some are involved in emotion, memory, imagination, and decision-making all at once. The mind is not divided into neat compartments. It is a web. And because it is a web, changing one part can change everything. A single traumatic experience can reshape personality. A single loving relationship can heal deep wounds. A single night of sleep can improve memory, mood, and focus. The brain is always changing. Neuroplasticity proves that the mind is not fixed. Even in adulthood, neurons form new connections. Old patterns weaken, new habits strengthen. Your brain is constantly rewriting itself, not only through big events, but through tiny daily experiences. Every thought you repeat is training your brain. This means you are never exactly the same person 2 days in a row. You are always evolving. And yet, despite all this change, you still feel like you. That is the mystery. A constantly shifting biological system that somehow creates a stable sense of identity. And perhaps that is why the brain inspires wonder, because it is not only the organ of logic, it is the home of dreams, the birthplace of love, the creator of imagination, the keeper of memory, the silent builder of meaning. As you rest now, you might feel small in a comforting way, not because you are insignificant, but because you are carrying a universe inside your head, one that science has not fully explored. And in the next part, we'll explore another fascinating truth: why most of your daily thoughts are repeats, why the mind loves familiar loops, and how to gently break free from them. For now, let the mystery feel peaceful, and let your mind drift into darkness like a slow tide. As the mystery of the brain settles into your thoughts, you may notice something quietly familiar: the way certain ideas return again and again. Even when you try to think of something new, the mind often circles back to the same worries, the same plans, the same memories. And psychology suggests a surprising truth. Most of your thoughts today are repeats from yesterday. This doesn't mean you are stuck. It means your brain is efficient.
The brain is always trying to conserve energy. Thinking requires resources. Creating new neural pathways takes effort. So the mind prefers familiar patterns, familiar routines, familiar thoughts. It replays them because they are already built. Like walking the same path through a forest instead of carving a new one. Researchers have found that a large percentage of daily thoughts are repetitive. People think about the same responsibilities, the same fears, the same conversations, the same desires. Even when life changes, the mind often carries the same internal soundtrack. This is why mornings can feel similar. The brain wakes up and immediately begins loading its usual program. It reviews what needs to be done. It revisits what went wrong. It replays what might happen next. And before you even realize it, your day is shaped by the same mental loops. This repetition creates stability. It helps you function. It helps you remember who you are. It gives your life structure. But it can also create a quiet trap. Because if your thoughts are repetitive, your emotions may become repetitive too. A person who repeatedly thinks about fear becomes more anxious. A person who repeatedly thinks about failure begins to feel hopeless. A person who repeatedly thinks about rejection begins to feel lonely. Thought becomes mood. Mood becomes identity. And the brain begins to believe the loop is truth. This is why negative thinking can feel so convincing, not because it is correct, but because it is familiar. The mind confuses familiarity with reality. But psychology also offers something hopeful. Novelty breaks loops. When you experience something new, your brain becomes more awake. It pays attention. It records more detail. That is why time feels slower during new experiences. Travel, learning, meeting new people, trying a new skill. These moments create fresh neural activity. The brain lights up. And this is why childhood felt so long. Everything was new. The brain stored countless unique details. But as adulthood becomes routine, days blur together. Fewer unique moments are stored, so time feels faster. Not because life is shorter, but because memory records less. Yet even small changes can create freshness. Taking a different route, eating something unfamiliar, listening to new music, changing your room lighting, learning one new fact. These small shifts wake the brain up. They create new pathways. They make life feel wider. And there is something even more powerful. Mindfulness breaks loops. Mindfulness is not mystical. It is simply attention. It is the practice of noticing the present moment without judgment. When you become mindful, your brain stops replaying yesterday and stops predicting tomorrow. It returns to now. The sound of your breathing, the feeling of your blanket, the quiet darkness behind your eyelids. And in that moment, repetitive thoughts lose power, because the loop cannot survive when you are fully present. This is why nighttime can be healing. At night, you have a chance to step out of the daily mental program. You can let the day dissolve. You can release the endless repetition and allow the mind to become empty, even if only for a few minutes. And those minutes matter, because the brain heals through silence. As you rest now, you might notice the mind trying to return to familiar thoughts. That's normal. That's what the brain does. But you don't need to follow every thought. You can let it pass, like a leaf floating down a river. In the next part, we'll explore another powerful psychological truth: how the brain responds to touch, why physical contact reduces pain, and how the nervous system can calm itself through simple human warmth. For now, let your thoughts soften, and let the night remain quiet and gentle.
As your mind continues to drift, you may notice your body becoming heavier, as if gravity itself has grown softer. And in this calm state, it becomes natural to explore one of the most comforting psychological truths. Touch can heal, not in a magical way, but in a deeply biological way. The human nervous system is designed to respond to physical connection. A hand on your shoulder, a gentle hug, someone holding your hand in silence. These small moments can reduce stress faster than many words ever could. Psychologists and neuroscientists have found that touch activates sensory pathways that compete with pain signals. This is part of why rubbing your arm after bumping into something makes the pain feel less intense. The brain receives competing signals and the pain becomes quieter. But human touch does more than distract the brain. It changes chemistry. When you experience comforting touch, your body can release oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin reduces stress responses, lowers cortisol, and creates a sense of emotional safety. It is the same chemical that strengthens bonds between parents and children, between partners, and between close friends. In other words, touch tells the brain, "You are safe." And when the brain feels safe, the body begins to relax. This is why touch can lower anxiety. Even holding someone's hand during a stressful moment can reduce fear. It is as if the nervous system borrows strength from another person's presence. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing becomes steadier, your muscles loosen. There is also fascinating research showing that people in close relationships sometimes synchronize physically. In some studies, couples holding hands during stress showed brainwave patterns that became more aligned over time. Their bodies moved toward harmony, like two instruments finding the same rhythm. This suggests something beautiful. Connection is not only emotional, it is physiological. Your body literally responds to closeness. And perhaps that is why loneliness can feel so painful. It is not only sadness, it is the nervous system lacking regulation. Humans are wired to calm each other. When we are alone for too long, the brain remains slightly more alert, as if it is waiting for support that never arrives. But touch does not only come from other people. Even self-touch can calm the nervous system. Placing your hand on your chest, for example, can activate the vagus nerve, a pathway connected to relaxation. Slow breathing combined with gentle pressure can signal safety to the brain. Some psychologists call this self-soothing, and it is a real technique used to reduce anxiety. The body listens. Even a warm blanket can help. Warmth mimics the feeling of closeness. It relaxes muscles and lowers stress. This may be why people often sleep better when wrapped in heavy blankets. The pressure and warmth create a sense of containment, like the nervous system is being held. And in a way, it is. Your brain doesn't always need logic to feel comfort. Sometimes it needs only sensation, a soft pillow, a warm bed, a quiet room,
a gentle touch. These things speak directly to the body, and perhaps that is why healing often begins with small comforts, not big answers. Because the nervous system cannot solve problems when it feels unsafe. It needs calm first. It needs softness first. Only then can the mind release its tension. As you lie here now, you might notice how safe you are in this moment. Even if life is complicated, even if the world outside is uncertain, right now you are here, breathing, resting, surrounded by quiet. That is enough. In the next part, we will explore one final deep psychological truth, how the mind's choices are shaped by hidden forces, how your brain decides before you realize it, and why human behavior is often guided by unconscious patterns. For now, let your body relax completely, and let the night hold you like gentle hands.
As your body rests in stillness, you may begin to feel as though your thoughts are floating farther away. The mind becomes softer, less demanding. And in this gentle quiet, we arrive at one of the most surprising psychological truths of all. Your brain often decides before you realize it. Most people believe decisions are made consciously. You think, you analyze, you choose. But psychologists and neuroscientists have discovered that much of decision-making happens beneath awareness. Before you consciously say yes or no, your brain has already begun preparing the answer. In certain experiments, researchers monitored brain activity while participants made simple choices, like pressing a button with the left or right hand. Surprisingly, brain signals predicting the decision appeared seconds before participants reported being aware of choosing. This doesn't mean you have no free will, but it suggests something fascinating. Your conscious mind is not the only decision maker. The conscious mind is often the narrator, not the controller. The unconscious mind gathers information constantly. It notices patterns, emotional cues, and hidden details. It processes experiences faster than conscious thought ever could. And then it produces a feeling. A gut instinct, a sense of comfort, a sense of danger. A quiet urge to move towards something or away from it. Only after this feeling appears does your conscious mind often create an explanation. This is why people sometimes say, "I don't know why, but I just felt it was right." That feeling is the unconscious mind speaking, and the unconscious mind is shaped by everything you have lived through: your childhood, your past relationships, your fears, your memories, your beliefs, your environment. Even things you barely remember can influence your choices. This is why certain places feel safe, certain people feel suspicious, certain opportunities feel exciting. The unconscious mind is constantly comparing the present to the past, searching for patterns that once mattered. It is always protecting you. But unconscious decision-making can also mislead you. If you have experienced rejection, your brain may interpret neutral situations as rejection. If you have experienced betrayal, your mind may become suspicious even when there is no threat. The unconscious mind is powerful, but it is not always accurate. It is emotional, and emotions are not always logical. This is why habits are so strong. Habits are unconscious decisions repeated until they become automatic. The brain loves habits because they save energy. Once something becomes a habit, you no longer need to think about it. the unconscious mind takes over. Driving a familiar route, brushing your teeth, checking your phone. Even emotional reactions can become habits. Some people habitually apologize, some habitually avoid conflict, some habitually assume the worst. Over time, the brain makes these responses automatic, and then life begins to feel like it is happening to you rather than being chosen by you. But psychology offers a gentle truth. Awareness creates choice. The moment you notice a pattern, you interrupt it. You bring it into the light of consciousness, and in that light, you gain power. Not power to control everything, but power to pause, to breathe, to choose differently, to respond instead of react. This is why self-awareness is one of the most important psychological skills. It is not about perfection. It is about waking up inside your own life. And perhaps this is why the quiet of night feels meaningful. At night, distractions fade. The unconscious mind becomes louder. You begin to notice your patterns, your habits, your emotions, your deeper needs. Night reveals what day hides. As you rest now, you may realize that your mind is far deeper than you ever imagined, a silent ocean of decisions, feelings, and hidden intelligence working beneath the surface. And in the final part of our journey, we will bring all of these truths together and end with a gentle reflection that allows your mind to release everything and drift fully into sleep. For now, stay comfortable and let the last stretch of the night feel peaceful.
As you arrive here, at the quiet end of this journey, you may feel something different in your body. A softness, a stillness, a calm that wasn't there before. Almost as if your mind has been slowly untangling itself, thread by thread, without you needing to force anything. And perhaps that is the most important psychology fact of all. The mind heals in quiet. All night, we've explored how your brain remembers, how it predicts, how it searches for patterns, how emotions shape perception, how touch can reduce pain, how sound can awaken forgotten memories, and how the unconscious mind guides you more than you realize. But beneath all of those fascinating truths is one simple reality. Your brain is always working to protect you. Even when you overthink, it is trying to solve pain. Even when you feel fear, it is trying to keep you safe. Even when you repeat the same thoughts, it is trying to create stability. The mind is not your enemy. It is a guardian. Sometimes it becomes tired. Sometimes it becomes confused. Sometimes it carries too much. But even then, it is still trying. And tonight, as your body rests, your brain is doing one of its most beautiful hidden tasks. It is sorting your life. While you sleep, the brain strengthens important memories and fades the unnecessary ones. It clears out mental noise. It processes emotions you didn't have time to feel during the day. It organizes experiences into meaning. It heals the nervous system in silence. Sleep is not empty time. Sleep is deep work. Psychologists often say that the brain is like a living garden. Thoughts are seeds. Emotions are weather. Habits are the paths you walk every day. And whatever you repeat, whatever you feed, whatever you focus on, grows stronger. That means you are always shaping yourself, even in small ways. A gentle thought before sleep can calm the nervous system. A moment of gratitude can lower stress hormones. A slow breath can signal safety. A quiet acceptance can close an open loop. And as you lie here now, you don't need to solve the mysteries of the mind. You don't need to understand every thought. You don't need to chase every feeling. You only need to let the mind rest. Because rest is not laziness. Rest is repair. It is the moment your body returns to balance. The moment your nervous system stops bracing. The moment your brain stops scanning for danger. The moment you return to your natural state, a soft state, a quiet state, a human state. And perhaps if you listen closely, you can feel that state arriving. Your eyelids are heavy, your breathing is slow, your thoughts are fading like distant lights. If your mind tries to wander, that's okay. Minds wander. If a memory appears, let it float past. If a worry returns, let it dissolve. You don't have to fight anything tonight. The night is not asking you to perform. The night is simply holding you. And in this moment, you may realize something comforting. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply human. A mind full of stories, a heart full of echoes, a soul learning its way